Now we move along to the quick rules number 3. After all that hand explanation and what some of the cards in our opening hands do, how do we decide who goes first? Well, to see who goes first, you roll 2d6, and the player that rolled the lowest total when adding the rolls together goes first. If there's a tie, the oldest person between those rollers go first. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll roll two of these d6s. This will be for me. So hey, I rolled a 5, and let's say my opponent rolled a 5 as well. So that would be a tie, and the oldest person goes first. I'm going to say I'm the oldest person, because why not? So I'll go first. What do we do on our first turn? Well, what does it say here? The first turn. The first player begins their first turn, and play moves clockwise around the table. You may only deploy cards from your hand on your first turn. This is called casing the neighborhood. That's right, we are casing our neighborhood. We've come into this, we're a cosmic being. We've come into this new neighborhood, lush with reputation, lush with the power that we need to push forward, to bring us to the epicenter of whatever the mysterious power in the middle of this metropolis is. This will help us push forward, and it is now my turn to go first, and we just pretty much do what the card says here. The first turn, flip it over, and we'll see what the first turn is. Deploying cards. To deploy a card from your hand to the table, you must subtract influence equal to the card's deploy cost from your influence dial. And I say influence dial on these cards because in the actual physical game, this is a little dial that you'll turn. But since we have this handy dandy little counter box in Tabletop Simulator, this is what we're using to keep track of our influence. We get 10 influence, and with that 10 influence, we can now start to lay claim to the neighborhood. We're casing the neighborhood. So what would I want to play out of this group of players? I think I want to get Elaine Zibbler out of there. Now, she costs 7. So I'm going to reduce this down to 7, bringing me to 3 influence. And then I get to play her down on any of these fronts out here. And you play to your side of the front. So I'll play to this side, and my opponent will play to their side. But it's basically you're on the same front. It's just for visual clarification, if you will. So I will put her right down here on Zibbler Casino. I mean, it's her casino after all. I'm going to try to control it. It's worth 10 points a turn. I only need 40 reputation to win the game. So we'll go ahead and try to take this. Now, when you first deploy a goon or any card from your hand, you have to put your little player token on it, which are these little guys here. Look here. One side's your player token. The other side is exhausted. When a goon or some other structure does something, you exhaust it by flipping this little token over to let you know that I can't use that again. And if you're ever using a front ability that you control, you would put your player token on it if you are in control of it. And then if you use this ability, you would exhaust it, and you could not use this ability again until your restore phase on the next turn. So, but when you first bring a card out, you have to deploy them to a front, and then I'll just drop the player token down, exhausted side up, to indicate that Elaine Zibbler is exhausted here, so she can't do anything else. She's just kind of hanging out there. All right, so I have 3 influence left. I don't have any cards in my hand to play worth 3. Everything's more expensive than 3, so I can't play any of these cards yet. So that is the end of my first turn. We'll go over here to the enemy, my enemy player here. They start with 10 influence, just like every other player. And what would they do? They just saw me play Elaine Zibbler down here on this 10. They don't want me to control this. So they're going to try to put something mean down here. I think Pretty Face Nelson might do the trick. So their player is going to spend 6 because of the influence icon right here for Pretty Face. He costs 6 to play, bringing him down to 4, and he will play it down here. Now, of course, if there was an actual player over there, he would play it like that so he could see it. But just for explanation purposes, we're going to throw him down there. He doesn't want Zibbler. He doesn't want me to start getting 10 points for this front. And then he played a Goon. And when you play a card on your first turn, it comes out exhausted. They have 4 influence left. They can actually play this Fats Gillespie out of their hands. So they're going to do that. Spend the rest of their 4. Boom. And they will play. They probably are going to play to the highest reputation. Probably right here. Get the dice out of the way. All right. And then Fats Gillespie comes out with an exhaust token on. Boom. And then that's the end of their turn. So now, if we go back to our handy-dandy quick rules card, once every player has taken their first turn, the round is over and play moves to the reputation phase. All right, moving on to the reputation phase. The reputation phase. Let's magnify this. Boom. If a player is in control of a front, and again, a player is considered in control of a front if they have the most goons at the front. If they are tied with another player, nobody is considered in control of the front. So let's look at our table here, and sure enough, they are in control of this front. My enemy is beating me already, so we're going to have to throw a control token down there on that. Nobody's in control of this front over here because I have 1 goon and they have 1 goon, so nobody has more goons than the other player. So nobody is in control of that front. So now that we've decided who's in control of the front, we'll go back to our quick rules card and score an amount of reputation equal to the front's reputation score indicated by that icon on the bottom left corner of the front. And they should adjust their green cubes on their player mat's reputation track accordingly. So they're the only ones in charge of something. So they're going to get 4 points for this front. And if this were the actual physical game, you would use a cube and go down your track. But since we're in Tabletop Simulator, we have the option to use this neat little counter, which is what we'll do. So there we go. That was the first turn and reputation. And it looks like my opponent is beating me 4-0 right now. So we're going to have to step it up. That brings us to the second turn and beyond. The first player begins their second turn. This time, and for every turn after this, they will follow their phases of play, listed on the player mat from top to bottom, completing each phase before moving on to the next. When the last player finishes their second turn, the round ends and the reputation phase happens again. After that reputation phase, round 3 begins, and play continues like this until one player triggers the end game. And what is the end game, you say? Well, here it is. The end game triggers when one player reaches 40 reputation, or when half of the fronts in play plus 1 are either seized or destroyed. So in our case, we have 4 fronts total in the game. So half of that is 2 plus 1 is 3. So if 3 fronts are ever seized or destroyed, that will trigger end game, even if somebody hasn't reached the 40 reputation. And then if we so choose, after 1 hour of play, if nobody has won, the person with the most reputation will win the game. And see, when the end game triggers, every player after the player that triggers it gets 1 more turn. Once they finish, all players complete their reputation, compare their reputation scores, and whoever has the highest reputation score wins. And then it tells you how ties are broken down here. So from here on out, guys, we will just play like we were playing a regular game, and I will explain things as I go. All right, it is the second turn. My second turn, I now follow the phases of play card. So the first thing I do is draw until I have 5 cards in my hand. Well, currently in my hand is laid out here. I got 4, so I can draw the top card from my deck, put it in my hand, like so. Okay, so there's my draw. Then what do? I reset my influence to 10. Okay, bump it back up to 10. And you lose any influence that you haven't spent, so that's maybe something to keep in mind. Chances are you won't spend all of it every turn anyways, but just so you know, you only go back up to 10 at the start of your turn during this influence phase. Alright, so we did that. Our restore phase, remove 1 exhaust token from all cards I control. So the only card I have with an exhaust token on it is this Zibbler right here, so... and I can actually leave this on here, just flip it over when it's exhausted. This indicates that this card belongs to me. If you have other players on here, there might be goons from other players on my side of the board. So it's good to have these player tokens on your cards so you can tell them apart easily. Alright, so there we go. We restored. And then now we go into our action and deploy phase. Use upgrades, do goon actions, and play cards. Alright, so let's see what the goon actions are all about. Goon actions. So, if you have any goons in play, they may each do 2 actions. Pick 1 action from any group, then pick another action from a different group if you wish. Some cards and talents will allow you to use your actions twice, and all actions must be completed for 1 goon before moving to another. You do not have to use the 2 actions, but as soon as you do 1 action and move on, the goon becomes exhausted, and add 1 exhaust token to the card. Alright, so here are our goon actions right here, guys. Our goons can either move to a front. That's the first group, move to a front. The second group has 2 actions in it. You can only choose 1 action from this group to do. So if you wish to do this group of actions, you can either attack an enemy goon, or you can try to use a talent, but you could not do both. You would have to pick a different group if you pick one of these options. And then our group 3 options has 4 additional options here. So group 4 is you can attack an enemy upgrade, or attack an enemy downgrade, or try to seize an enemy upgrade, or try to seize an enemy downgrade. So that's our group 3. And then finally the group 4 has 2 options here. You can either attack a vacant front or try to seize a front. So those are our actions, guys. In this case, I got Elaine Zibbler here. I can't seize this place yet because I don't have control of it. And in order to seize it, I have to have 4 goons stationed here. But what I can do is try to attack Pretty Face here and get him off this spot so I can start collecting these 10 juicy points here. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to do the goon action, attack an enemy goon. So I will not be able to try to use a talent this turn. But since I used the attack an enemy goon option of this group instead. So let's go ahead and do an attack. So again, 6 chances and a 5 combat. I need 6 die, please. Let me group all the dice together. I said all the dice together. There we go. Alright, there's our 6 dice. We roll them, and our combat is 5 for Elaine Zibbler, so we're trying to get lower than a 5. Alright, we got 2 successes. She is favored, so remember favored means I can re-roll a 1 or a 2 as an ace. So this is 2 successes, and I can re-roll the 2 since she's favored. She got another 2. That's 3 successes. I could roll it again, and that's 4 successes. I did 8 damage to Pretty Face Nelson. Pretty Face ain't so pretty anymore, is he? So yes, 8 damage is more than this goon's health, which is 6. So this guy is a goner, man. He is out of the game. His player would put him in his morgue, face up like so. And now I am in control of this front since I have the most goons at it currently. So we'll throw a token out there. Now, that was one action. I could use another action since you get 2 actions. I don't think that I'm going to, though. I could move to a front, or I could do any of these or any of these. But I think I'll just stop where I am and let her stay, so we'll exhaust her. And whoops, I didn't mean to hide that chip under there. There we go. All right, and so I have 10 influence left. So as you can see there, I don't have to deploy first. I can do actions with my goons and then deploy after. So that's what I'm going to do. I still have 10 influence, so I can play something from my hand. I think we're going to get... Do we want to get Draco out there? I think that's a good choice. It's a red card, so you know it's going to be strong. I have to pay 7. All right. That gets Draco out there, and let's just go. Let's just challenge them. Let's just challenge them. And I forgot to mention, I could use another one of my actions here for old Draco, because I used one action to deploy them to the front. And since it's not the first turn anymore, they do not get exhausted when they first come out. So he actually has 1 action left, and I think I actually forget to deal with that in this playthrough. It wasn't until after I rewatched the playthrough that I realized, whoops, I missed that. But just so you know, on the second turn and beyond, your cards do not come out exhausted, and the deploy cost is just 1 action, and then they can do a second action. So he could have come out and immediately attacked the enemy goon that was stationed there. So now they do not have control of this front. We remove their control icon, or their control player token. I have 3 influence left. Oh, I can play Sizzlong because he has 2 influence right here. So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. 1, 2. And we will play Sizzlong to... you know what? I'm going to go for the Baker Street Rec Center because I want to try to get some reputation. And then when they first come out, when you first deploy a goon, remember they come out exhausted, so we have to put our little token on them to let us know that they are exhausted and cannot do anything. All right, that was a pretty productive turn, I would say. And anything else we want to do? An optional phase of discarding. I kind of like all the cards I have in my hand right now, so I am not going to discard. So it goes back over to this player, and they, for their second turn, will start their phases of play. They will draw until they have 5 cards in their hand. Currently, they have 1, 2, 3, so let's give them 2 more. Ooh, a gun turret. This is an upgrade, and a termite swarm. So let's take a look at these.